it's more valuable, huh?
Is the camera on again?
Camera is now on again, yeah. What's the best right next thing to do? It's to think, what's the best option that could happen right now? How can I make that happen? How can I be more intimate with her? And you know what, if it feels awkward, if you have like an elbow cutting into your side, or it's not comfy, or maybe you're just sat down with a woman and you know what, you're sat opposite one another and you're not happy with the table spacing and she feels too far away, much more powerful just to acknowledge that and then go, you know what, you feel too far away, come here. And you say that, you create that direct line in between your intentions and what you want. And remember, this begins with awareness about what you want, and then you communicate and then you express that. That is far more valuable to you, getting good at that conscious awareness and that expression. That chain, practicing that chain and that focus is better than the other option, which is trying to learn a perfect amount of things that you can do to a woman, or a perfect sequence. In line with that, I want us to work just now on a couple of other touches and body language positions that we can get into to really communicate a few things. Now, when you're coming across in a sexual way to a woman, when you have that comfort within your sexuality, you probably want to demonstrate a couple of things. I mean, when you're, how do I put this delicately? When you're having sex with a woman, what do you think makes for great sex?
Orgasms.
Confidence, orgasms, this is all, yeah.
For me, I guess it's the mental connection.
Mental connection. Okay, yeah. And what do you think in terms of physical stuff? What do you think for a woman, what do you think she might like?
Contact.
Being touched, contact, yes, good. What kind of contact? Do you think she likes being like thrown on the bed and having her hair pulled, or do you think she likes being stroked and caressed?
All of them. All of them at the right time.
All of them at the right time. I love the great answers, guys. This 10 out of 10. That's awesome. Yeah, it's exactly right. When you want to be able to communicate, right? Exactly that image that you have in your mind of like being the world's best lover, where you've got that combination of that masculine sexual power, where you're demonstrating, because I love it if a guy picks me up, if I get my hair pulled a little bit, that can all be really lovely, as can being that sensuous touch and those caresses. And if you're sat there on a date with her and you're thinking about how much you'd love to do all of that stuff, you want to start communicating that desire again and communicating that sexuality through your touch. So I just want to show a couple of pairs of touches and get us to start consciously thinking, if I wanted to express my masculinity and my sexuality, and also if I wanted to appear sensuous at the same time, how am I going to do this? How am I going to express that towards a woman? Volunteer? Hey, excellent, thanks. So the first one, we'll just get into this is sounding like innuendo all the time now, but we're going to get into a couple of different positions, okay?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, awesome. So when you're like this and you're facing, so this could be a scenario, you might be at the bar, right? Or on a date, you're about to say goodbye at the end of your date. Now, what kind of things could we do? How do you naturally would like to engage with me?
What if I was saying goodbye?
Yeah. Okay, good.
Maybe a little bit closer.
Okay, this is I love that. What I'm liking about this is I want us to be thinking in terms of masculine and sensuous touch when you're in these kind of situations. So what I loved then was when I felt that pressure on the small of my back. That's a really nice, like, feminine part of my body. You notice when women want to look more provocative, they kind of like this, you get more of a curve in the spine. That's something that's an area she's going to feel really sensuous and really feminine. So I love that the hand was there. I like that the pressure that came, because that's when I'm getting that moment of knowing that you're the guy. You're going after what you want. So I've got that bit of masculinity. So how could we create some more softness and sensuous touch to really up that moment? Okay, I think we need less smile.
Okay.
Less smile. That was good though. It's good. Okay, so this is yeah. Okay, there's a few different areas that you could stroke. You went for the arm. This is good. So you could stroke the arm as you were doing. Okay, what's the better area of the arm to stroke?
Palm.
Yeah, this is much more sensitive. That's the erogenous zone. So yeah, stroking down the inside of the arm. You know what's nice actually, if you flip that finger around and you actually run it like this, like that. And if you want, at the end, you can turn it slightly so you just get a little bit of nail. Sounds weird. Okay, that's one area. Okay, what's another area that you could get that touch? Let's go for something stronger than the arm. Yes. Soft, okay. This is feeling the best out of all of the options so far. Okay, so how can we keep that stroking movement, that sensuous, soft movement? See, that is nice. Excellent work. Good combination. Other ones that you might want to think about, by the way, would be a touch to like the side of the face. That's a typical one. Or also the inside of the hip. Have you noticed this bit here on the woman? Just to the inside of the hip bone. That's also going to feel, if you could just run like a little finger like that, that's also going to feel really nice and really sensuous. Excellent. Great work. Again, I'm not really following any particular structure or any combination of movements. It's all about thinking, okay, I want her masculine, I'm going to do the masculine grabby thing, but I'm going to combine that with something more sensuous. So let's get into another position. Another volunteer? Come on, this isn't bad. This isn't a bad X. So you put your hand up earlier, I saw it. It's horrible, basically, isn't it? It's like difficult. Right, we're going to make this, I feel that you are confident.
I'll try.
Yeah, so we're going to try a more difficult one. You're going to sit opposite me. Okay, now this is a difficult position, right? If you're on a date, it's not really conducive to touch. But she could be showing that she wants to be touched. She could be showing that she's engaged with you. If I was interested in him, how would my body language be changing here?
Lean forward.
I'd lean forward. What about my arms? Yes, excellent. If you're on a date with a woman and she's like this, across the table, what an amazing sign. Okay.
So, you having a good time?
Okay.
Are
Yeah.
you? Great. So what are we going to do afterwards?
Okay, so we've got a good amount of sensuous touch here. And I like, double points for incorporating role play element. That's good. So we've got the hand going. And that feels really nice, by the way. Excellent use of that, just the one finger doing the underside. A little tip, which you might laugh at, but if you're conscious that you're getting into too much of a stroking action, and it's getting a bit repetitive, try writing the alphabet or something. Do A, B, C. This works for oral as well, really, really well. Just putting it out there. I'll get rude by the end of this seminar. So this is one aspect.
Okay.
How are we going to get excellent on the sensuous touch? That on the leg feels really great. How are we going to get that?
So you can see from this side.
Now, how are we going to get to that more masculine thing as well? How are we going to combine that?
I wouldn't be sitting if I wanted to do that.
Okay, but we'll just for the benefit of this one.
Okay, well, I'll go for the neck again. Try
Okay.
to get a bit more,
Yeah.
reduce the distance,
Yes.
get you closer.
Look, you look like. Yeah, that's exactly what I was hoping for. Yeah, you do. This is sexy, right? Especially if you imagine you're sat like an angle. She's at an angle to you, and you're like, this sucks.
Nah, of course not.
You, woo! You pick me up, you can try it, woo! Lush! So yeah, picking up would be great. And if you don't want to go for the pick up and the sit on the lap, and the stroke on the back, which also feels nice, I loved what you suggested, which is if you could grab the sides of her chair. It doesn't really work with these kind of chairs, but if you've got one that you know is going to slide across the floor pretty easy, if you grab the side of the chair and you go, where were we? And you pull her in, so it would be like you grab and imagine I'm really strong. There you go, and you grab her,
I'd be scared
and
if that was the case.
and you yank and be like, hey, that's much better, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So you have that ability, and that's another kind of more strong masculine gesture. If you were there and you're able to hold her eye contact, you had nice strength within your arms, you pulled her chair, you made her sit on your lap, and you did that whilst in combination with those smoother, more subtle touches. what I'm getting here is a whole world of, this guy is going to be great in bed. This guy is really comfortable within his sexuality. This guy knows what he wants. And therefore, that's going to allow me to feel more comfortable and get caught up within the moment. Really good work. That's amazing. Thanks. Let's just do one more of those. And it's going to be kind of similar to the first one that we did. One more volunteer. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. We'll do these two to the side. This one again. Okay, so we're going to sit next to each other. Okay. Sat down next to one another. Right, let's go for a nice masculine touch to begin with, because this is rubbish. We're back to airline seating again.
That's okay. So I can start, a little.
Start a lot. Let's go for a lot. There, let's grab. Okay, cool.
Well, I can do something like this. And,
Okay.
No, it's not.
What's your impression? If we're at a bar and you were witnessing this, what would you assume our relationship was with this body language?
What?
Yeah. With the hand holding thing, I think when you're in a relationship, it's lovely because it's a real trust, good bond, but it's not dynamic enough. Yeah. Possibly for a first date. So instead of going for the hand hold, it's probably nicer if you can just stroke and play with the hand like this.
Like this.
Yeah, excellent. And then if you can do that, and then maybe it's the last as you end the stroke, maybe pull that, then pull me round. Then where's that other hand going to go? Yeah, and move it to a more sensuous area like the hip, like this. Yeah. And you can kind of hold me like that. Now from here, you could be stroking the inside of the hip if she was comfortable with that. You know what else you can do is if you're talking to her, what's another really nice area is this. Like the clavicle, this bit here. Yeah. This way you see this bone, that's the clavicle.
Yeah, the clavicle,
Yeah. And if you're talking to her and she feels comfortable, and it should be just like the finest of touch to just this bit here. If you're feeling really confident, what you could do also is if you're feeling really comfortable, you could also just be like this.
I'm curious,
like just imagine you're going down there. Maybe she's got like a necklace, and you're just running down the necklace line across the clavicle. Strong eye contact.
Let me try.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Start again. This is great. I like how you're taking the lead. Actually, it's really good.
Okay. So I can start this way. I think it's
softer.
Softer.
Softer there. Just use one finger, it's like the amount of pressure you'd use probably to do that to your eye.
It's like an eye.
Yeah, like an eye. Okay. Yeah, exactly. And then you could do that, and you could do that, and you could run your finger down there. Yeah. And then you could run, maybe, if we're getting 50 Shades of Grey, and then up into the hair, and then pull her.
So it would be like this.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, getting there. That's good. Okay. Awesome. So you can sit down. So a great thing there would be just to get that combination of if you're going to be doing a powerful sexual movement, you're really pulling a woman in towards engaging with her, combining that with being able to do a more sensuous touch. And again, it really just does begin with you thinking, how do I want to touch her? How do I want to engage with her? If you've been sitting here and some of those touches that we've been going through, like maybe just stroking that one finger on the clavicle or stroking down from here, down the front of the rib cage, if running your fingers around the back of someone's hair, if running your fingers down their back, if you're watching that and you know that, actually that's not something I've really experimented with before, that's not something I feel comfortable yet with doing, this needs to be incorporated into your arsenal. It needs to be something you're aware of, something you're practicing, something you're doing, because it's one of those ways that you create those options for the moment. Remember those ones I was talking to you about earlier, where you're really powerfully visualizing what's the most sexy and erotic and amazing thing that could happen right now that I could take this interaction. So if you're not sure kind of where it is within yourself, then it will be very, very hard to have done that. Yeah, it'll be very, very, very hard for her to feel engaged with you. So I've spent some time discussing, I think, ways that you can try and get more grounded and more in the present moment with how you're feeling the seduction. So remember, first of all, we talked about recognizing when you feel really sexual and when you feel really empowered and really powerful. That might be when you're doing the thing that you feel best at. It could be when you've won at something. It could be just after a really long run. It could be when you've seen someone you find extremely physically attractive walking past. We need to just get much more conscious of witnessing that feeling and not kind of like shoving it down and telling it to shut up, but going, yes, actually, this is the good stuff. I want you to become very conscious about what your sexiest parts are. So know mentally and physically what makes you sexy and what makes you interesting, really, and what makes you different to all the other guys out there. Because I really want you to forget about trying to be like anybody else, or trying to work to be like any other seductive character, or wishing you were like that guy, or wishing you were like your friend who's really good with women, or wishing you were like that sports star or that Hollywood actor that all the women like. Fuck that. You've got to be you, and you've got to do you really, really well, your version of seductive. From my brief encounters with the guys that came up here we were doing the exercises, I could already feel that the sexual energy and chemistry of all the men was very different and very unique to them. So don't seek to be like anybody else. Seek to get a much clearer understanding about what makes you sexual, what you like to do in bed, how you like to engage with a woman. Get that clarity of mind in place. Also get much more comfortable with witnessing a woman in front of you and knowing what's sexy and what's sensuous about her. If you feel that strength, that pull of attraction towards a person, try and work out what it is. Is it the way that her hair moves? Is it the lines of her body? You know, is it her smell? Is it her skin? Get a little bit more animalistic, primal and specific about what is attracting you to people. Then internally, I want you to take control of your dialogue. If you hear a voice in your head saying that you can't because you're worried what he, she, or they thinks, you need to tell that voice to shut up. The key is when you're not thinking about what you want, you're thinking about what anybody else wants, feels, or expects of you. Because if you're acting in line with how other people expect you to behave, you're creating that disconnect between what you want to do and your expression. You're telling yourself something about it is not allowed. So be conscious. Whenever you have whenever a voice of doubt in your head starts speaking and it says, what does he think? What will they think? What does she want? You need to forget that for a second. It's very difficult to second guess other people. Much more powerful to go back to what do I want to do right now? What do I want to do in this moment? With this moment, I want you to try and get into a state of mind where you're conscious of all of the different possible avenues and things that you could do within a moment. If you're only thinking there's one or two options available to you, if you're only very conscious of this one way that things could work out, try and explore other options in your mind. Go back to times where you nearly had an amazing love affair or a credible night of passion with a woman and it didn't quite work out. Go back, replay it in your head, imagine what you would have said, where you went, and what actually could have happened that evening. Because it starts with you knowing what you want. It starts with you having a clear sense and a clear vision of where this could go, and a belief in your sexuality and a belief where you could go there with her before she's going to go along with that and feel really comfortable with expressing herself. Then when you are aware of how you want, what you find attractive, what's attractive about you, and how you want things to go, bring her into the present moment. Force her to acknowledge the chemistry and the potential that's there for both of you right then and there. Force her to acknowledge that by letting her know that you have intentions towards her. Honestly, it's a rare thing when you meet a man that has strong sexual intent. And it's a rare thing which makes it a real gift when you meet one that does. Not when you meet a guy that is just interested in having, hooking up with anyone, but you meet a guy that really wants you, and you get that strong sense that it's not that he's just a man whore, but there's something about you that's really turning him on and he really wants. I'm going to take questions 2 minutes, literally. And then when you're communicating that to the woman, if she's comfortable within your presence, the feedback loop is all in her face. You're all smart guys. You know when a woman feels uncomfortable. You know when she's tensing up, when the face is wrong. When she's feeling that, when she's looking and feeling relaxed, concentrate on how you want her to be positioned. So if you're sat side by side, if you're stood up, if you're sat opposite one another, like all of those different scenarios I've been running through up here, I want you to be focusing on how do I bring her closer to me? How do I create more intimacy? How do I get this closer to what I want? Where do I see this going? How am I going to act on those desires? And unless you get a no signal from her, I want you to keep following through on that. just like I was trying to demonstrate up here. Also, as in terms of communicating how you feel about a woman sexually and how you feel about yourself as a lover, when you're touching her, try and think about the touches you're using to engage her, often combining those more masculine, strong touches with those more feminine touches are going to be the best combination to really, again, powerfully engage her within the moment and communicate what you're like as a lover. And you know, if you get really good at doing all of this stuff, so that's like part awareness of what makes you sexy and what you want and what you find attractive, and part successful communication of those internal instincts, when there's no disconnect there and you feel comfort within that, things start to go very, very smoothly. And then you know what? Lots of things that she'll be looking for in a lover and in a partner will be being ticked off without you actually having to work around what she wants. So whilst most men might approach the problem of seducing a woman by thinking, hey, well, how do I make me her type? What kind of men does she want? How does she get turned on? What am I going to do to convince her that I'm the right kind of man for her? Instead of working on that, they're going to be thinking, okay, what do I want? Where do I see this going? How do I feel comfortable within my sexuality? You do this, and suddenly lots of things that women find attractive are going to get knocked off the list as well. So in terms of what women find attractive, who's watched a romantic movie-ish recently? Great Gatsby? Anyone? I watched The Great Gatsby. I quite liked it, just putting it out there. So if you're thinking about that, can we think, in fact, you can just think of a Disney film. A Disney film is good enough. In a Disney film, what kind of stuff, or romantic comedy, what kind of stuff happens between the man and the woman in order to signify romance? What kind of things would you expect to happen? In a romantic comedy, how do people meet? By chance. Brilliant. So by seeing someone that you find really attractive and you acting on those instincts, you create a chance meeting. And a chance meeting, so unsurprisingly, because we've watched so many Disney films, we've watched so many romantic comedies, we've read so many books, there's something about that like hits some kind of trigger, which makes us think, okay, romance, seduction, excellent. And all you're doing then is you're not actually thinking, this is going to create a romantic trigger in her, therefore I'm going to do it. You're going to think, this is what I want to do right now, so I'm going to do it. And the byproduct of that is that she feels romanced. How do the romances usually go in these romantic comedies?
They fall in love, something happens, they argue, and then something magical happens, and then they fall in love with happy ever after.
Yeah, perfect, exactly. So I would say that there's something about time in that as well. There's a sense of, for the woman, that this is it's not consistent. She's not feeling during those romantic comedies like, wow, this is all so perfect right from the start. Might as well be married already. Let's crack the sweatpants out, basically. She ain't thinking that, is she? She's like, it's like on the edge of your seat stuff. It's like, oh, but did he fancy that other girl in the office? Oh no, but what if, but he lives in a foreign country and we might never see one another again. It's all that kind of stuff, right? So actually, by you snapping her into the present moment, by saying, hey, you know what you did just then is incredibly sexy. And creating that jolt of tension by making her acknowledge the possibilities of what could happen right now, you're bringing in the threat of the moment. And that is something that's very, very powerfully entangled with romance in our minds. Romance is not consistent, plod perfect. It's not about touching her in a mystically perfect sequence where there are no flaws, and because it's so, you've executed this information to 100% perfection, that's why it works. The seduction is really in the inconsistency. It's in the feedback loop. It's in you taking a step wrong or a step too far or a step not far enough, recognizing that and fighting back from it. That's going to create those sensations and those feelings of romance. Likewise, pulling her into the possibilities of the present moment, that spontaneity, I think is something that's a pretty big feature, isn't it, in the romantic movies? You know, you don't see a guy in a romantic movie going, all right, okay, if I go to these 2 bars, then back to my house, I'll spend an hour here, an hour there, and then I'm going to walk past my front door, That doesn't happen, does it? It's like you go and you're in the moment, and then you see an opportunity to do something, and you maybe take things further. And it's about really, instead of trying to make a perfect plan before you go out on the date with a woman, it's instead getting into the right mindset where you're open to the opportunities, you see opportunities, and when the opportunities arise, you go for them. You go for them and you bring her into that fantastic, spontaneous world. Likewise, generally, maybe not in a romantic comedy, but maybe in like real romance films, like or anything with a vampire in it. Like those films, the vampires are always sexually confident, aren't they? There's a good amount of hair pulling that goes on there. A good amount, oh God, I've just been watching True Blood recently. Oh my God, Eric, the vampire Eric in that, my goodness, he's amazing. Anyway, whenever you're watching these kind of movies where men are presented in a very sexual way, they have that confidence within their sexuality, right? It's not that you're watching Twilight or whatever, and like the vampire dude is there thinking, God, like, should I be at more of a 90-degree angle to her right now? He's not really thinking that. He's thinking primarily, I want to bite her neck really bad, and I'm going to go for it. And it's that kind of primal connection, though less murderous, that you want to connect into. And so by you connecting into your instincts and what you want, again, what you're doing is just by accident, you're going to be kitting off something that she finds super attractive and super sexual. So what I'm trying to always dig back to is, instead of being so focused on externally how you can become more seductive, externally how you can learn all of the rules or all of the things or all of the tricks to make you cheat life and cheat having to actually really be in the moment and connect with someone, instead of trying to be too concerned about what is socially appropriate or what you've been told is the correct and right thing and the thing that you could do right now, instead of doing that, instead of worrying about what she's looking for in a man and whether you're her type, whether you're tall enough or muscly enough or anything to do with penises, fuck that stuff. Instead, bring it back to you. Bring it back to the roots of your sexual power. Because when a woman is with a man who she knows is very, very sexually confident, is very grounded in his sexuality, who knows what he wants, is unapologetically going to go after what he wants with strong intentions, who feels comfortable within his sexuality, that is the most seductive thing. And if the man is strong enough and grounded enough and in tune enough with those instincts and expressing them clearly enough with strong enough intentions, she's going to magnetize towards that. She's going to feel compelled. She's going to start to feel aroused by those behaviors. She's going to feel magnetized towards all of the things that he's doing. So if instead in fact, you can win not by bad phrasing, you can enjoy a more seductive and more interesting and more sexual life, not by focusing on all of the other people around you, but really getting good at focusing on you and getting clarity around what you want. Meditation will help with this, self-hypnosis will help with this. Get clarity around your feelings, really express them clearly, and a woman will know when she's in the presence of a man who's truly connected to that. And when she's found that man, she's going to want to stick with that man, because just like the yoga instructor or that one guy that you meet in 6 months who walks into a room and knows that he's got it going on sexually, you know who that man is and you want to be with him. Make yourself that man, and you make yourself that man not by being anybody else, but by getting really fucking clear about who you are and what you want and how you're seductive. So that's the end of my talk bit. I've got, I think, if I time this right, about 9 minutes, 10 minutes to take some questions. So any questions about what I've said or about seduction, dating, relationships in general? Yeah.
First of all, thanks for the talk, great. You said have a very strong sexual intent. Mm-hmm. Where is the line before it just becomes bloody sleazy?
Well, I think sleaziness, to me, sleaziness is actually when a guy has strong, well, there's two things that make things sleazy to me. One is that you're not actually being very clear about what you want. I find it okay, I'll tell you the sleaziest thing that happened to me this week. This is good. I was going down the escalator on the tube, and I was wearing I'm going to point this out, a loose-fitting dress. It was like, it had a high neckline, it was down to the knee, it was loose, it was like a tent. And a guy comes down the escalator to my left-hand side, and as he walks past, he goes, "Great ass." Just like that, under his breath, "Great ass." That's sleazy. Why is it sleazy? Because there's two things that were really, I didn't know him, so we had no trust, we had no connection, we had no intimacy. So if you're concerned about things being sleazy, work on the connection first, because if she feels that actually this guy really gets me, he really understands me, we like each other and have some commonalities or common reference points as human beings, then that will work against the sleazy factor. It's the difference between the builder and the guy that you're in bed with in terms of what you're allowed to say. And remember, you can become more intimate with a person by going there and being more intimate with them first. So that's point one. Point two about why it was sleazy is because he whispered it in my ear as he was running and walking very quickly in the opposite direction. That to me says someone who's not fucking very comfortable really with what they're saying. You know, if you can get to the point where you're at that point of comfort with what you're saying, that comfort within your sexuality where you're able to make that eye contact with her and you're able to hold her in that moment and you're still able to say slowly with conviction that she has a great ass, that's going to be so much better. So I think those are the two things. It's intimacy and connection to the woman. You have to have a degree of that generally. Although sometimes in the free expression, if you see somebody walking along and you really want to say something to them, if you say it and it's very genuine, it will come across well. So being genuine, having intimacy with the person, and having that confidence within yourself. You have to be okay with you saying it. So if you don't feel comfortable, it ain't going to work to begin with. Is there any other questions? Have I really? Oh, good.
It's kind of a different question, but I know that you are working in the seduction community. How do you structure your work with men or women? Because I didn't tell you, but I actually am working in self-development.
Okay.
So I have
Okay.
and I want to start doing something similar to what you are doing.
Okay, that's interesting.
So how do you structure it? Is it possible to just a little?
Yeah, I'll just do that really quick because it might not be super interesting to everybody else. But I guess when I work with people, I'll tell you what I did when I first started out. I taught a load of crap. I was spending a lot of time telling people rules for how they should text girls and like stupid things like that. The more I've gone on, the more I've realised actually it's about each individual on a case-by-case basis. So though it makes no business logic or sense to me, most of the time I just work one-on-one with people. I'll consult with them for a couple of hours. I really get to know them. It has to be in a private setting so I really understand what's going on. Then I work to assess and understand exactly what their limitations are and mentally and internally. And then I develop from that a program of exercises, and it could be exercise-based or it could be actually going out there in the real world and meeting people based. Sometimes it's just therapeutic and talking based to get them through to that next level. Sometimes you meet people and it's a very easy, you know that it's a very easy fix. Other times you realise that people have a lot of other issues or things that they're probably contending with. So I think the most that you could do, I just say, is get experience and practice, because it's your ability to synthesise information, be sensitive to people and really understand and know what you're looking at as a coach that I think makes a difference, and that's an experience thing.
Yeah. By the way, can we give Haley a huge hand? Come up here, because I want to share the stage with you a little bit.
Excellent.
This is a unique opportunity. So here, you grab this seat,
Excellent.
I'll grab this seat. And sorry about telling you out in the tube. I thought you would recognize. See, one of the things I like is, I think the message we're getting across here is that if you believe and congruently believe in what you're presenting, then women will follow you. Right? Maybe there'll be some initial friction, but pretty soon after that, women will follow you right into your reality. If first you can stay grounded and you can do some things to capture their attention, and you know how to handle some of the initial autopilot stuff that's going to come up. There's going to be autopilot stuff that comes up from all the, hundreds or thousands of guys who have barraged her with bullshit. when autopilot comes up, you have to know how to stay grounded in your body and how to handle the autopilot. So I have a boyfriend, or I love this one. Have you ever, you probably wouldn't, but sometimes women will say something like, I just want you to know nothing's going to happen. When I hear that, I know something's going to happen. So I never even, why is she thinking about it? Yeah. Right? Like, why is she even thinking about it? I had this experience where I spent some time with a woman, and we didn't get fully intimate, but we were getting into it. And the next day she sends me an email. She says, look, I just want you to know I'm not interested in love. I'm not interested in sex. This can only and forever be a friendship. I wanted you to know that. This is what she said. So I wrote her back. I said, no man with any self-respect is going to freeze his heart and cut off his balls and promise to do that, because that's what a woman thought she needed in order to feel comfortable. I said, I'm not going to make any such promise. The only promise, the only thing I want is to only do what we both feel totally comfortable doing as adults, whatever that might be. And if that's not acceptable to you, that's fine. And if it is, we can hang out. Now, as it turned out, she left town. But the point of the matter is when women say things like, let's just be friends, what are they expecting? What's the common response that if you say, let's just be friends, that guys will give you?
Either, okay.
Or, which is a lie. Or,
they might just, they'll give up.
they'll give up.
Yeah, acceptance will give up.
So, by the way, notice something, there's something really clever embedded inside of this. When I say, I only want to do what we both feel totally comfortable doing, what does that mean?
You're suggesting that she will be comfortable doing that?
It's completely vague. It could mean anything. It could mean whips, chains, St. Bernards, anything. Remember what I said, there's a time to be vague, there's a time to imply things, and there's time to be direct. Knowing how to tell those two things apart is not necessarily the easiest art, but once you've mastered that, then you can go really, really far and get away with a lot. Do you understand?
Yep.
What do you think, Hales?
Yeah, I think that sometimes especially when I was trying to, I think, speak about that sensation in your stomach and being able to effectively communicate what you're thinking, what you're feeling. But I think there's a lot to be said for what's left unsaid, an omission as well. When you can imply through your sub-communication and your body language and what you're not saying, and you can just have it with enough, you can leave just enough details out that she can fill in the blanks herself. I think that can be a very, very powerful and erotic thing as well.
Cool, because every woman longs to have her blank filled in. And with that, let's give Haley a huge hand. Are you done? You want to finish now? Are we good?
Yeah, very good.
Thank you, dear. Okay, let's take a 10-minute break, and we'll see you then.